Okay, this is my research video for the Trail of Tears. The Trail of Tears was a trail that led 5 Native American tribes to modern day Oklahoma, which was kind of like a reserve, but it was unprotected, and it moved them out of the southeast to where people wanted to move into. So you got Florida, parts of Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, Missouri, Kentucky, just places like that, and just picking them up and dropping them off over there. It reminds me of, like how people just remove bugs from their house or something like that. You just don't want them, so you just hire someone to take them out. You just have someone else take care of the problem for you and call it a day. A lot of the people in these tribes actually took on modern day civilization, which would be like Christianity, paid labor, money, personal property, private property, things like that, that lead to modern day civilization at the time. Andrew Jackson was the one that made it official and signed the treaty for Native Americans to be moved. Because, before there were years where they didn't want them there and there was like conflict and people were starting to remove them, but there wasn't really anything set in stone to where they could officially stop them or move them, not stop them. But Andrew Jackson was the one that signed the treaty for them to be removed officially. And by law, they had to be removed because he automatically was given power. Which obviously led to a lot of conflict, wars, and death. And mostly on the Native American part, because they were kind of like fighting an alien. Like they were used to hunting things that weren't as smart as them. They just had to, understand how they survived, and you could just easily learn how to, learn their weaknesses. But with these guys, modern civilization people, I'll say, they were stronger. They had, they probably had some sort of modern weapon against these guys with sticks and spears and, arrows and things like that. It's just, they didn't have that good of a chance, and it's unfortunate because they still died trying, which is good. Going out with a bang, that's good. It's a sign of respect. There were roughly 60,000 Native Americans, taking about 2 decades to move all of them to this territory. And I did some math, and it probably fluctuated quite a bit, but that's 3,000 Indians a year, or Native Americans. I don't want to say Indians. That's 3,000 Native Americans a year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that is quite a bit of people, just being picked up and dropped off from a place where they probably lived their whole lives and learned how to survive in these places, into a place that might be a lot different. It might be like putting a polar bear in a desert. Maybe not that different because you're just taking them, from the southeast to Oklahoma, which might not be that different weather-wise. But I'm pretty sure, crops, their way of eating would have to change or they would die. Their way of getting water would have to change because they were a lot closer to main rivers. You have the Missouri River, you have, things like that, the Ohio River. They might not have had that much access, and, you get used to a lifestyle, and it's hard to grow out of it and learn how to live a new one. It took 4 months to complete the Trail of Tears, and there were multiple trails. Actually, there was one that, because there were multiple tribes, not all the tribes were in the same place. So the Cherokee one started in North Georgia. I have a map here. North Georgia went up to Tennessee, Kentucky, Missouri, and then it had a fork to where some would go through Missouri and some would drop down and go over to Oklahoma. And then the Creek one it would start in like the Alabama Georgia line, and they would just work their way over, you know. And then the Chickasaw started kind of like Memphis and just moved their way over, kind of like a scraggly, probably moving around major objects, landmass, you know, things like that. But I think the longest one is definitely the Seminole. I think that's how you pronounce it. And they did go by, they went through the Gulf of Mexico. They had to probably go on a boat because they were in Florida. So they moved them, and then they moved to New Orleans, and they went up to Mississippi, and then over into Oklahoma. And then Choctaw, I think that's it. Just started in Mississippi and moved over. But most of these guys ended up the last part right before they moved into the territory started or ended on the same trail. So they all kind of ended in the same place. The total for these trails is 2,200 miles, 2,200 miles of walking, forced walking, starvation, you know, fights, lack of water, lack of food, starvation. I guess I already said that. In a new area, you know, it's sometimes I guess it just makes me shake my head and be like, what were they thinking? But yeah, that's what I have. Thank you.